Goldman took over, and I think Goldman's fantastic at what he does. I really do. And he's asking her about Abrego Garcia and the fact that the Supreme Court ruled 9-0 that you have to facilitate him bringing him back to the United States of America. That's what the Supreme Court ruled. They ruled 9-0, and you have Noem giving her opinions, interjecting, and making it sound like whatever the Supreme Court decided doesn't matter. Have a listen to this.
To follow this
MS-13,
court order.
By the way, he identified
Madam Secretary,
himself.
I reclaim my time. Stop filibustering. Stop filibustering.
Surrounded by gang members of MS-13.
Will you give Mr. Abrego Garcia the due process that the Supreme Court and Judge Wilkinson has required you to give him?
Abrego Garcia is an El Salvador resident who is in his home country. If he were to come back to this country, he would be immediately removed again.
How do you know?
He has received and been treated appropriately,
So
sir, and he is not.
How can
in
you
this
say he's
country
been
anymore.
treated appropriately if the Supreme Court has ruled 9-0? 9-0 that he hasn't been treated appropriately. Why is your opinion better and have more authority than the Supreme Court?
Investigators, 2 judges, an immigration court that all said he was MS-13 and was removed from this country.
But you understand, that is you saying that. That is you saying that.
That is them saying that. This
No.
is investigators and law
That is
enforcement
you
officers
making that
in the case they
determination.
built against him. If you don't
The
trust our law
court
enforcement
has
officers
considered all that.
and
The judge has
investigators,
considered all that,
then
Madam
who do you
Secretary.
trust if you
And
don't
if you would be
trust judges?
quiet because I'm reclaiming my time.
So first of all, Kristi Noem just lied. It was never proven in a court of law that this guy is a gang member. By the way, never was convicted of any violent crimes as well. And you have Noem, who was talking about respecting law enforcement when the guy that she wears the Donald Trump knee pads for every day, which is Donald Trump, called people hostages and patriots who beat law enforcement on January 6th. And somehow she's saying her opinion is more valid than the Supreme Court that ruled 9-0. And it gets worse. It gets worse, Leonard, because here's the part where I talked about taking an oath, right? You take an oath to the Constitution, upholding the Constitution. You don't take an oath to a 34-count felon adjudicated rapist. But if you're Kristi Noem, I guess that's totally okay. And this is when Goldman goes into the fact that you took an oath to uphold the Constitution. What do you have to say about that?
Nothing.
Your continued advocacy for him were to.
I'm not advocating for him. I'm advocating for a court order, Madam Secretary. The court order says that you must take steps to follow the court order. You are here under oath. What steps have you taken to return Mr. Abrego Garcia pursuant to this court order?
It's got to be extremely discouraging to be one of your constituents. To see you fight for a terrorist like this and not fight for them is extremely alarming to me.
I'm fighting for due process, and that's under the Constitution.
The gentleman's time has expired.
Due process.
The gentleman's time has expired. I now
So that's
Now he's a
probably
terrorist?
the most telling piece of audio the entire morning. So you heard murmurs in the background when she called him a terrorist. First of all, there's no evidence that he's a terrorist. That's never been proven in a court of law. He's never been convicted of a crime in his life. That's totally unproven. But Noem is just throwing out the word.
Accused, as far as I
listen,
know.
it's the same thing when they call lefties pedophiles. You know, they call Joe Biden a pedophile. Same credibility there as Kristi Noem calling this guy a terrorist. It's absolutely absurd and it's ridiculous. If they think he's a terrorist, then why don't they bring him back and try him in a court of law? The reason why they don't do that is because he's not a terrorist. And I find this to be very interesting as well, Leonard. It's because she claims that they're getting the worst of the worst out of this country, yet can provide no evidence that that's true. It's a lie.
It's an attack on due process. It has nothing to do with all that word salad stuff that makes no sense, with talking points that have no facts to back it up. And I would say they found a way to facilitate bringing him to El Salvador, right? And so the court is saying now you have to facilitate a way to bring him back.
Yeah, and what's so sad about this is, it's another lie, and you have, a guy with a mom and dad tattoo that was sent a one-way ticket to an El Salvadoran hellhole prison, probably one of the highest maximum security prisons in the world.
Well, they say the warden said you never get out. They said once you go to that prison, it's a life sentence. Everybody.
Yeah, and here you have somebody who did it the right way. Even if you're an undocumented immigrant, doesn't mean you deserve to be sent to an El Salvadoran prison like that. It's absurd. And you have Kristi Noem trying to sit there with a straight face, looking like the imbecile that she is, because that's what she is, by the way. She's a complete imbecile.